Today's Daf Yomi is Kiddushin Nun Tes. We're going to start the new chapter of chapter 3 on the bottom of 58b. This Daf Yomi is dedicated for Yeshua, for Tzahal, and Hashem should watch over their comings and their goings. So the Daf Yomi starts with the Mishnah, and the Mishnah tells us, Ha'omer le'chavero, if somebody says to his friend, Say v'kadesh li'isha ponis. He says to his friend, go out and betroth for me this woman. Go out and betroth for me this woman. So Reuben says to Shimon, go betroth for me to Sarah. And then Halach, Shimon goes, v'kitcha la'atzmo. He betroths her for himself. We're going to say Mikudeshas Lasheni. So she's betrothed not to Reuben, who had the idea, but to Shimon, who actually did it. So to a man says to a woman, he says to her, you're betrothed to me, but only after 30 days. And then Shimon comes along, and within those 30 days, he betroths her. She's betrothed to Shimon and not to Reuben. So too, if you have the daughter of an Israel to a Kohen, at that point, when she's betrothed to the second person, if the second guy is a Kohen, she could eat from the Truma. But let's say he says to her, Reuben says, he says, you're betrothed to me from now and also after 30 days. So since the language is unclear, if somebody else comes within those 30 days, she's betrothed and not betrothed. Meaning to say we're not sure. So she's going to be prohibited to both of them, and it's like she's betrothed to both. And she can't marry anybody else until they both give her a get. Under those circumstances, she would not be able to eat the truma if she was a Bas Yisrael to a Kohen or a Kohen to a Bas Kohen to Yisrael. So the Gemara first starts off by saying, Omer Chavero Tzei Kadesh. So somebody says to his friend, go out and betroth for me this girl. So the Brisa says, yeah, Tana Masha also, if the second guy comes along and betroths her first, even though his friend had asked him to betroth her to him, it's a valid act what the second guy has done, but he's acted in a deceptive manner. He was supposed to watch out for his friend, not steal the bride for himself. So technically speaking, it's not stealing, but it's minag ramos. It's the way of the deceivers. Mitana Didan, and the author of our Mishnah, why does the author of our Mishnah say v'halach? The word v'halach is extraneous. Halach nami dekatani. What does he mean? Halach beramos. It means he went with deception. He was a deceptive man. Why here does it say in our Mishnah, somebody says to his friend, go betroth for me this woman? Why over there does it state, why over there does it state one who says to his agent? Why over here does it say he says to his friend, go betroth for me this woman, and the friend goes first to vow betrothal? And then we're talking about an earlier case, we're on top of Nun Testament Aleph, but we're referring back to a case in Daf Nun Amud Aleph where he says to his agent, go betroth for me my wife in New York. And turns out she was in California, and the agent betrothed her in California. There it's no good, because he said specifically in New York. So why there does it say to an agent, and here does it use the language of a friend? So the Gemara's answer to that is, in each case, the Mishnah is being precise to teach us an extra teaching, a rabusa. What's it teaching us? The Tana Shlucho, here, if instead of a friend it had said his agent, that if the agent does this is deceptive, because the Samcha Daite, he thought this guy was his attorney. He relied on him. He had a formal agreement with him. So the Samcha Daite, he'll say he thought he'd be my agent. But his friend, he's not his attorney. He might have thought that this is not deceptive practice if the friend does it. And also Hasam, in the case of Beckham 50A, where he says go betroth my wife. Betroth my wife in New York. Ha, some Rabusa Kamash, teaching us a Rabusa. The Itana Omer Chavero, if it just said, one who says to his friend, Havamina Chavero, the Chikacha b'makom achar eina mekudeshes. His friend, if he had betrothed her in another place, that's not a valid betrothal. Why? The Savar Lo Tarach, because when you ask your friend to do something, you don't expect your friend to go to a second city of Shlucho, but your power of attorney, the Tarach, where he goes out of his way, maybe we might have thought for sure it is indeed the Mari Malcolm. We might have thought for sure that he was his agent. He wasn't showing him the precise place. He was just telling him, I think she's in New York, but you can betroth her wherever she is. So therefore, it has to tell us also his agent, he means exactly that place. And now the Gemara tells us a series of stories. Ravin Chasida. Chasida means the pious one. Azul Kedushalei is a celebrate. He went to go betroth a woman on behalf of his wife. He wasn't his son's agent, Tosos reminds us, because earlier we learned back on 45b, remember the Gemara tells us the person never be so chutzpahdik as to appoint their father to be their agent to betroth the wife for them, but the father could do it if he knew that that's what the son wanted. So therefore, he was acting in his best interest of his son to betroth a woman. But Azul Kedusha is celebrate, but Kitchel Navship. In the end, Rabbi Chasida didn't betroth her for his son, he betrothed her for himself. How could he do this? His name is the pious one. Isn't this a deceptive act? Mara says, she done it, she didn't want to go with him. Mara says, well, why didn't he tell his son first? So in the meantime, another person would come along and maybe marry her. So, but don't we have to be concerned? But what's his concern? Isn't it all about shert? So even though it's about shert, nevertheless, that's only bar shert is only by the first divig, by the first marriage. But this was the second marriage for him. The proof is because he had a son. So we don't see the concept of bar shert by a second son. That's what the Ritva says. And secondly, even though another person, even though he's coming first, nevertheless, another person, even though it's bashert, another person could push him away through bakashas rachamim, through prayers to God. There's a third idea, and that is this idea of bashert is not in every case; it's just in specific cases. But most of the cases are not through the bashert, and so therefore he couldn't rely on this concept of the bashert here. So we have a second story. Rav Bar Chana Rav. Rav Bar Chana gave some money to Rav, and Amar Zabna Nili Lahai Ara. He said, "Go buy this land for me." But what did Rav do? Azal Zabno and Avshe. Rav bought it for himself. The Gemara says, "How can he do that?" Why did he buy it for himself? Isn't that deceptive? The Gemara says, "No." But Aga Dalime Avele. That this was a place where the people were very strong. The people didn't want to sell the property to anyone. So to Rav, they said, okay, we respect you, we'll sell it to you. But to Rav Bar Chana will now give it cover. They weren't going to sell it to Rav Bar Chana. So the Gemara says, Rav should have told Rav Bar Chana. The Gemara says, he saw in the meantime another guy would come along and buy it, so therefore he had to buy it himself. Now we have the third case. Rav Gido have a mahapech bahi ara. Rav Gido had his eye to buy a piece of land. Also, Rabbi Abba Zabna. Rabbi Abna went along and bought it. So Rav Gido was very upset. Also, Rav Gido kibbutz Rabbi Zera. He complained to Rabbi Zera. So also Rabbi Zera kibbutz Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Rabbi Zera was told to the top Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Amrway. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha says, "Hamtina chiyal etzleinu l'regel." Wait for them to come up to us for the holiday, and then I'll ask Rav Gido what he's doing. Then I'll ask Rabbi Abba what he's doing. So when Rabbi Abba came up, so the way Rashi understands this is the case of ani mahapich b'charara. Let's say there's a poor man, and he's about to pick up a cookie from something that's hefker. That's how Rashi understands it. That he's mechazer alalik nosis. Excuse me. He's about to buy it from hefker, And Rashi's explanation that this was something from Hefker. And Tosha says, no, it's not a Hefker. It's just a poor man has an opportunity to get a good deal. So Rabbi Yitzchak Napa says to Rabbi Abba, let's say there's a poor man who's about to buy something, Ani Mahapech Becharara, and then comes along his friend, and what does he do? The other guy takes it before the poor man can get it. What would you say about such a person? So Rabbi Abba says, Amrway, Nikre Rasha, he's called a wicked guy. Velamar, my time of Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka says to Rabbi Abba, well, why did you do this to Rav Gidel? Rav Gidel had opportunity here and you took it. So Amrway, Yadana, he said, I had no idea it was about to buy it. Well, Hashanami anyway. So Rav Yitzchak Nafka wasn't buying it. He said, well, you could make it right and give it to him now. Give Rav Gidel the property. So he says, no, I can't. Why? I can't sell it. The Ara Kamaisi, because it's the first land they've ever bought. Well, Mesamna Milsa, he says it's not a good sign for me to sell it. So it's the first thing I ever bought. But if he wants, I'd be very happy to give it to him as a gift. Rav Gidel didn't want to take it. Why? Mishum da because it says in Mishlei, one who hates gifts will live. And so he says, I don't want any gifts. I don't want any gifts. Rabbi Abba didn't want to take it. Mishum tahapechba. Rabbi Abba didn't want to take it because he saw tahapechba Rav Gidal, because he didn't want to take it because Rav Gidal had his eyes on it. So Umar nachasla. So neither one went down to take it. So therefore they left it empty. Miskaria Ara Rabbanan. They called it the land of the rabbis. They left it hefker for rabbis. Rabbinical students come and use the property, but neither one of these rabbis was willing to take it. So to the next case, it says in the Mishnah, so he says, become betrothed to me after 30 days. And then the second person comes within the 30 days and betroths her, she's betrothed to the second one. But, says the Gemara, let's say another person doesn't come within those 30 days to betroth her. Then what's going to be the halacha? So meaning to say, so you would think, they'll say that she is betrothed then to the first person. But the chiddush here is, even though the money is no longer there, my timer, because he says this money, even though the money is no longer there after 30 days, we're saying she's been betrothed after 30 days. Why? This money is not like a loan, meaning it's not like he gave her the money as a loan. And so therefore, because we said earlier, if you betroth with a loan, it's not a betrothal. And it's not a deposit that we could say if the deposit was no longer worth anything, she's not betrothed. Like we said earlier on Daf Mem Zayin, he says, become betrothed to me with this deposit. And then she went and she found that the deposit that he had given in her possession was stolen or lost, that only if there's a Shavruta is left is it a betrothal. But this is not a deposit either. Pikadon lo damo, pikadon bershusa, demara kamasachli. Ane bershusa dida kamasachli. It's not like a deposit, because a deposit, he's the owner, and this was in her possession. So it's not like a deposit. It's also not like a loan. A loan was meant to be spent. And Bitoras Kiddushin, you have Nisu Nilay. He gave her this money as a betrothal, not as a loan. Now we have a different question. Let's say a second man doesn't come and betroth her within those 30 days, but she wants to recant. She wants to change her mind within those 30 days. Is she able to change her mind? So Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chozeres. Rabbi Yochanan says no, she can just change her mind. Why? Asi Dibor Mavatal Dibor. She was betrothed with words, and she can cancel it with words. Whereas Rish Lakish says Eino Chozeres, she can't change her mind. Go Asi Dibor Mavatal Dibor. Words alone cannot nullify the words. He gave her the money, she needs to give it back. She can't just cancel it. Rish Lakish Amar Eino Chozeres. Rish Lakish says she can't. It doesn't go back. So Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan challenges Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish says words alone can't cancel it. Betel. We had a case of truma. If he asked an agent to go take truma from him, and then im adshel taram before the agent took the truma of Bitel, the Balabayas, the owner of the field, canceled it. Ain't truma so truma, it's not a valid truma. So it says Rabbi Yochanan, Dibor v'Dibor, here he appointed him, and then he canceled it. Because Dibor Mavatal Dibor. And the speech came and canceled it. The Gemara says, no. That case is different. Shani Nisinos Mosliad Isha Dachi Maisudam. No, when he gives the money to the woman, that's like an action. And so therefore, lo asidibur mavatal maisa. So the Reish Lakish is saying in this case of the woman, the dibur that she's going to make can't cancel the action that was done, which was where he gave her the money. So the Gemara says, well, again, Rabbi Yochanan challenges Reish Lakish. We learned in the Mishnah and Gittin, somebody sends a get to his wife, and before the shliach gets to his wife, he takes over the agent, or he sent another agent, and he says to him, "Get I'm canceling this get. Then it's canceled. But here, the giving of the get to the agent is like it's like when he gave the woman the money. And yet we say that this get is canceled. The Gemara says, yeah, well, no, in that case, there it's still speech because the get has not actually gone into the hands of the woman yet. So Asi Dibur Mavatal Dibur. Therefore, he can cancel its speech. A third, but now we have a question that Rish Lakish says to Rabbi Yochanan. Esvei Rish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. Koakelim Yordon Day Tumas Ambimachshava. A utensil. When do we say that it's capable of becoming tummy? When it's a finished utensil. How do we know it's a finished utensil? Through the thought process of the craftsman in making it. So once he thinks it's done, it can become tamei. But it cannot leave its status of a utensil unless it was changed, meaning to say he has to actually break it or destroy it, and then it can become tahor again. So then we say Ma'isa Motzia Mi'an Ma'isa on top of 59b, his action of being of breaking the utensil is what takes it out of the action. Ma'isa Motzia Mi'an Ma'isa. His action that he destroys it as a utensil, that is what takes out the utensil that was done from the beginning that made it capable of becoming tamei. And also miyan machshava, and also from its thought process. But machshava, but thought alone, emotzia, lo miyan ma'aseh, lo miyan machshava. Thought alone cannot take it out if you from the status that you made it tamei. So we see from here, bishlam miyan ma'aseh lo ma'afka. I understand an action cannot undo it from an action. To asi dibor mavato ma'aseh. I understand why thought cannot undo it from an action because speech cannot undo an action. El miyan machshava. But Rish Lakish says to Rabbi Yochanan, but from the thought itself, your thought should be, according to your thought, should be able to undo thought. So Rabbi Yochanan responds, no, Shani Machshava de Tumah, no, the thought process involved with making a utensil ready is equivalent of an action. In that case, it's distinct because it's like an action. Like Rav Papa taught, Rav Papa Ramik Siv, Rav Papa threw two verses against each other. It says, it says in the pasuk Yud Taf Nun, and which could be Ki yitain, karina be ki yutain. You could read it as he puts, but it could be read as it's put. Hakeitzad ki yutan dumya de ki yitain. So when the water goes on a food item to make the food capable of becoming tamei, it's similar to when he puts it. Ma yitain de nichlei, af yutan de nichlei. As long as he wants the water there, it's equivalent to him putting there, and it's like he did an action. So therefore, when it comes to tumah, we say your thought process is like an action. But Rav Zvid learned this whole dispute between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish in a different manner. Rav Zvid ma'asning lahashmaita aha, and he learned it as the following. It says in the Mishnah, as it states. How does Rav Zvid learn it? It states in the Mishnah. Let's say she gave permission to the agent to betroth her, so she's the one who appointed the agent. And then she on herself goes ahead and betroths herself. So she appointed an agent. The agent goes out, and then she goes off on her own and betroths herself. So the Mishnah says, if her act came first, then she's betrothed to the person she betrothed herself to. But if the agent's action came first. If the agent's action came first, then the agent's action is what takes effect and not her actions. Ain't Kiddushin. But let's say she never betrothed herself. She just wants to cancel the agent. She just wants to change her mind. So what would be the law there? Rabbi Yochanan says she can. Rish Lakish Amar Eino Chozeres. It's not enough for her to just she can't cancel it. She can't cancel it. And so Rish Lakish says. So Rish Lakish. So Rabbi Yochanan says she can cancel, and Rish Lakish says she can't cancel. Rabbi Yochanan says Chozeres. Asi dibor mavatal dibor, because she appointed him, she can cancel him with his words. Rish Lakish says Eino Chozeres, she can't cancel it. Well, asi dibor mavatal dibor, her words can't do it. So that's a dispute between Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Not in a case where the husband had this case, you're betrothed to me, and then within 30 days, and not after 30 days, and he wants to cancel. No, we're talking about a case where she sent out an agent. So Rabbi Yochanan, who says Asi Dibor Mavatal Dibor, he challenges Rish Lakish. He says Bitel from the case of the truma. He says he appoints his agent to take the truma. Imad Shlo Tire. If he nullifies it before he took the Bitel, Imad Shlo Tire and Bitel, if before he took the tithe he canceled the agent, ain't truma so truma. It's not a valid truma. So we see from here that Dibor can cancel Dibor, speech can cancel speech. So Rava says, no, no, we're talking about a case there where the owner of the house actually took his tithe first. And so he did an action. So the Gemara says, well, Rish Lakish, who says Dibor cannot cancel Dibor, Rish Lakish challenges him from the following case. It says, Kol HaKelim Yordim Lidei Tumasam B'Machshava Ve'ein Olin Mitumasam Ela B'Shinoi Ma'isa. So it says in the, like we saw, all the utensils can become tamei with thought process alone, but they can't leave the tuma except if there was an action, which means Ma'isa Motzi Miyad Ma'isa Umiyad Machshava, but Machshava Eino Motzi Umiyad Ma'isa Umiyad Machshava. That speech, thought alone cannot take you out of thought. So Bishlam Umiyad Ma'isa Umavka. I understand why I can't take you out of action. Losi Dibra Mavata Ma'isa. Topic. Why doesn't your thought take you out of the thought that you did before? So it was in a question against Rabbi Yochanan. So Amrway, Rabbi Yochanan responds, Shani Machshava de Tuma de Ki Ma'isa. He says, no, the case of Tuma is completely different, as we just cited above. Papa Ramik Sid Kiyitin, Karinan Kiyutan, Aketsa Kiyutan, Dumya Tiyitin, Mayitin Denichoy, Afutan Nami Denichoy. Okay, fine. Now we're going to have the zinger from Rabbi Yochanan to Rish Lakish. Hashalech, Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. Hashalech gel ishto, one who sends a get to his wife. Begia b'shliach, and then the get gets to the agent. O sheshalach acharav shliach, or when he sends a get to his wife, and the get reaches the agent, or he sends an agent after the agent, and he says, "This get that I gave to you is bato." Harei zeh bato. We see from here, and this is the case. It's the exact same case because he appoints an agent. And before the agent was able to do it, he canceled it. And we can't give the question before that there was waiting for the action, which is another case, like we said over here. But here, he's saying, I'm just canceling it. So it's exactly parallel to the case where the woman appoints an agent, and we're able to do it. So this is a proof of a refutation against Rish Lakish. Yufta de Rish Lakish Yufta. V'hilchasa kavasi de Rabbi Yochanan. And the law is like Rabbi Yochanan, that an agent that Dibor can mevatel Dibor. So speech can cancel speech. So if the woman sends out an agent, she can cancel it. The Gemara says, even in the first case where he says you're betrothed to me after 30 days and then he wants to cancel it, even though we could say Shani Nesinos most Isha and even though we might have said, well, there he's actually done the action of giving the money to the woman, so it's like an action. Still, Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan would say that the speech could come and nullify the speech. So the Gemara says, but wait 1 second. We just said the law is like Rabbi Yochanan who says that speech could cancel speech. But also we know Time one Rav Nachman. We know that the halacha is like Rav Nachman in general. And we once asked this question to Rav Nachman. In that case of the get, where he sent an agent to deliver the get, and now he cancels it. Can he go back and use that get? Rav Nachman Amar Choser Megarishbo, but we thought he canceled the get. Rav Nachman says he can go back and divorce with it. Rav Shesha says Eino Choser Megarishbo. Rav Shesha says he can't. Rav Nachman. Don't we say the law is like Rav Nachman? So we see from here, Rav Nachman says that he is Choser Umegarishbo, that he could go back and divorce with it, presumably because he hasn't nullified it. So isn't this a question against Rabbi Yochanan, who said speech can cancel speech? So how can we paskin in two opposite ways? The Gemara says no. When Rav Nachman says you can go back and use the get, it doesn't mean that he didn't cancel the agent. He debatle mitoras shliach mitoras gero batle. Yeah, he canceled the agency, but the get is still valid. So therefore, Rav Nachman saying you go back and divorce again with it. So this is a question between Rav Nachman and so there's no dispute between Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yochanan. So now we said in our Mishnah that the case, if a person says to a woman, you're betrothed to me after 30 days, and somebody else betroths her within those 30 days, she's betrothed to the second person. But says Rav, Amarav, Mekudeshes Lasheni Olam. Rav says that she's betrothed to the second person forever. Okay, that makes sense. The second guy betrothed her, but Shmuel comes along and says a Chiddush. She's only betrothed to the second person for the first 30 days. But once 30 days comes along, the second guy's betrothal disappears, disintegrates. And now all we have is the first guy's betrothal. It says you're betrothed to me after 30 days. So that seems a very strange position. So we have to understand that. So he says, Yosef Rav Chizuk Kashule Kiddushin Sheni b'may pake. He says, I don't understand. How could that be? How could she be married to the first guy if the second guy had already married her? What happened to the second guy's Kiddushin? Kiddushin Sheni b'may pake. Amrei Rav Yosef Mar Aresha Masilei v'Kashula Rav Yehud v'Kashule. Rav Yehuda Asefa Masilei v'Lo Kashule. So Rav Chizuk said, this is what we have to say. Rav Yosef says to Rav Chisda that you understood this dispute between Rav and Shmuel with respect to the first clause of the Mishnah. It means to say that the first one said the Kiddushin will take place after 30 days. And therefore you have a big problem. What happened to Shmuel's, how could Shmuel explain where the second guy's Kiddushin disappeared? But Rav Yehuda learned this dispute not about the Reisha, but about the Seif of the Mishnah. And so therefore it wasn't difficult for him. Because why? How did he learn the dispute? So the Gemara says he learned about the Seif of the Mishnah with respect to somebody who says he's betrothed to a woman in the following way. He says, I'm betrothed to you for now and also 30 days. So Rav says, Mikudeshes ve'ena Mikudeshes la'olam. Rav says that forever, neither one of them is going to be completely betrothed, and we'll explain why. That she's in a suffix betrothal to both, or to both men. And Shmuel says Mikudeshes ve'ena Mikudeshes. When Shmuel says that means it's ela ad shloshim yom, only up until those first 30 days, because maybe the first guy will die, and then the Kiddushin of the second guy will take effect. But after 30 days, Pake Kiddushay Sheni. Then we're going to say the second guy's Kiddushin disintegrates because the first guy did it on the conditional clause. Means say, I'm betrothed to you if I'm still in existence after 30 days. So the second guy came along and said, well, if that guy's Kiddushin disappears, if that guy doesn't fill through his condition, then I'm betrothed to you. And so therefore, if the first condition is filled, therefore Shmuel says, the Gamri Kiddushay Rishon, that the second guy's Kiddushin disintegrates. But Rav Mesafki Itanai. Rav wasn't sure if when this person says you're betrothed to me on the condition that I'm not going to change my mind within 30 days. So Rav wasn't sure if that's a condition or not. Or whether he was changing his mind from when he said, I'm betrothed to. He says, I'm betrothed to you from now until 30 days. Maybe he was changing his mind and saying, actually, I'm only betrothed to you after 30 days. So Rav wasn't sure. So therefore he said, since we're not sure, we're going to say she's perhaps betrothed to both. Shmuel's obvious to him that this was a conditional clause, meaning to say from now until 30 days, the intent of the person was to make a condition, and a tanai, and he was saying, my condition, my clause will take effect as long as I don't change my mind for 30 days, then we're betrothed from right now. And so therefore, between those 30 days where there's a concern, he might change his mind, we're going to say she's quasi-betrothed to both. But after 30 days, it's clear that the second guy did nothing with his betrothal, and she's only betrothed to the first guy. Okay, we'll stop here. God willing, we'll pick this up again at